on the Hurricane Florence. And she's in the Raleigh area, and you might be surprised at what conditions are still like. Good morning, Kristine Bellino.
Morning. How are you?
Wonderful. So the shelves are still bare, right?
The shelves are still bare. I went last night to the grocery store and couldn't get milk. There was almond milk and all that other stuff, but there was not any regular milk. And another woman and I just stood staring at the thing, and she said, I can't believe there's still no milk and bread.
Yeah.
And, there's not. But, I mean, this is still a crisis for a lot of people here. Rivers are still cresting. Evacuations are still being ordered. There was no school yesterday. So, I look outside and I see a bright, shiny sun and, cotton ball clouds, and then half an hour later, the rain starts.
Oh,
that spells disaster for lots of people. So,
especially with the terrain, you get the rain in the hills and in the mountains, and then it just makes its way down, and it takes a while, but it causes real problems down into the valleys.
Absolutely, and a lot of the ground here is clay or sand. There's not very much of that really nice soil that you have up in the Northeast. So it takes a long time for the water to recede. And because it's been raining here nonstop pretty much for a week, and I say nonstop, in the Research Triangle area, we're good. But even like Durham yesterday was under a tornado warning for about 45 minutes. And it was during, I would think it was 8 to 8:45, so just as people are getting to work. So the roads were completely bare. Schools were delayed. Some children had been dropped off at a preschool in Durham, and the roads were closed while after some of them had been dropped off, but not before a lot of them still had yet to be dropped off. So the road was closed, and children actually were inside the preschool. Their parents had already dropped them off, and nobody else was able to get into the school other than the faculty that was already there. So they were stuck there.
Wow.
So, it's those kind of things that are strange and you don't really think about.
Yeah,
I know another woman who lives in Liberty, and she has a horse farm, and she hasn't been able to let her horses out pretty much for 5 days straight. So, everybody's kind of going a little stir crazy. So in the Raleigh area, we're really good, but the Cape Fear River is expected to crest today, so a whole bunch of evacuations have been ordered. The governor said basically pick a side of the river that you want to be on because you're going to be on that side for the next week.
Wow.
So, Kristine, you mentioned the makeup of the ground, the actual dirt and stuff. I've been hearing from some that there's a lot of sinkholes, and that's going to be a continuing problem as well.
And that's a really good point, and that's probably something that will be in effect months down the road. We'll have sinkholes and not know why, and it'll be, one of the after effects of this storm. So,
what are the sinkholes coming? Is it infrastructure, or is it just the ground is moving?
The ground is moving. You see this in parts of Florida, especially, where there's limestone underneath, and the ground is not great to begin with to put big buildings on, and there's so much development here. And, you see a lot of I don't know that we have the sinkholes to the extent that Florida does, but you certainly have, the ground giving way. And there's really nothing you can do once that happens. There's nothing you can do. And then, the repair is just fill in the sinkhole, but knowing that it's probably going to happen again. So,
as of yesterday, there was one community that was, how up here, Tug Hill has the most amount of snow. They received, 56 inches of snow. Well, 36 inches of rain in one area was reported yesterday. That's unbelievable. An unbelievable amount of water.
It is. And, it really reminds me, and some of the areas that are affected reminds me of what happened, when we had all that flooding in central New York a few years ago. And, it's kind of like that. So these are effects that people are going to feel for, years to come. They're saying that some of the devastation that's happening here is worse than it was with Hurricane Matthew, which was a big storm here. It was a big deal here. So, they don't even talk about Hurricane Fran anymore because it says past that. So.
Kristine,
a lot of people who live on the coast can't even get home yet.
I wanted to ask you about the grocery stores. When I heard that there wasn't a lot of the milk wasn't restocked, basically the shelves aren't restocked. I was kind of surprised to hear that the grocery stores were back open again. All the video I saw yesterday were still flooding roads. I would imagine tractor trailers, are they even being allowed in? Is traffic again being allowed to come into North Carolina in those heavily flooded areas?
Not in the heavily flooded areas. So there are lots of detours, but the tractor trailers are not getting in. There are still a couple of gas stations in my neighborhood that don't have gas, that haven't had gas since last Tuesday. So for a week now, they haven't had gas, and for precisely the reason that you're saying, and that is that the trucks just can't get in.
Yeah.
And nor will they for a while. You know, some of those roads are closed for a few days yet. So
I was even surprised to hear that you mentioned earlier some places had school. I'm like, really? Already?
Yeah.
I can't imagine anybody's life is ready to go back to that much normalcy. I mean, it just happened, a couple days ago.
Yeah, so in Wake County, which is where I live, the schools were closed yesterday, but that's because they were cleaning up from the shelters. The schools were acting as shelters.
Yeah.
So Wake County really did not get hit at all. It was kind of the site for a lot of emergency responders to camp out because of the fact that, we were not really hit that bad. The storm, it was just like the Raleigh area kind of had this little protection around it because the storm literally went right around us. But it did hit Durham, which is a hop, skip, and a jump away from Raleigh. So, a lot of roads there are still closed, although school is in session today in Durham. So,
all right. Well, it's crazy, and even the areas like Raleigh that might not have gotten all the flooding, they had a flood of people, whether it's rescue workers or vehicles or just people that initially were trying to get away from the coast. That has an effect on communities.
It absolutely does, and I don't want to downplay what happened in Raleigh because some people are still without power. So but when you compare it to the fact that at one point 725,000 people did not have power, that's, we're putting it into perspective. Raleigh was pretty lucky. So, and we were bracing for a direct impact. So I think everyone's just breathing a sigh of relief that it didn't happen. And even people who have beach homes, know that they're pretty lucky. So
pretty crazy. Kristine Bellino, as always, thank you so much. We appreciate the update.
My pleasure.
All right.